kept up. They've carried on with this group. Let's give them a round of Because without you two, this group, it would have folded, it wouldn't have carried on, and look what fun we're having tonight. So that's really good. My name is Deborah Lloyd. My company, as you can see, is The Spirit Within, Hypnotherapy, and I'm a trauma therapist. I'm based in Lyon, Solent. I work online. When lockdown happened, I had lots of trauma clients, and I had to see them straight away. So lockdown, I think, happened on a Sunday. Monday morning I was on WhatsApp, because that's the only thing I had. So for 3 months I was working on my phone and getting my clients to work on their phones. Then Zoom came along and we haven't looked back really, so that's good. So thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you for coming out on this cold night. And I thought what I'd like to do is to start off with a little bit of meditation, if that's all right. Just to get you in the room. Some of you I know have had a bit of a faff trying to get here. Bless you. And just get yourself into that lovely zone. And I know some of you are therapists, and as Wendy has said, we've had a tough 3 years. Who hasn't? We've all got a journey and a story to tell. But just to get us in the zone, please switch your phones off if you haven't already done so. Thank you. Lovely. So just start with your feet flat on the floor, your hands loosely, sitting in your lap, and close your eyes. Just bring your awareness to this room. If it's been a tough journey getting here, or even a tough day, just forget about that now. And just know that you've done the very best that you could do today. Take 3 deep breaths, so breathing in and hold and exhale. And breathe in, hold and exhale. And one more, breathe in, hold and exhale. And just feel the air around you, whether it feels warm or cool, or just comfortable. I want you to be mindful tonight when you go to bed, when you've driven home in the cold, and you get into your lovely warm bed, under your duvet. Maybe have a hot water bottle. And feel that gratefulness. And get yourself really, really comfortable in that bed. Ready to dream. Ready to forget about those thoughts that have been running through your mind all night and all day. Ready for a sound sleep, a sound, relaxing sleep. Just bring your awareness back to the chair that you're sitting on here, where those pressure points are, maybe in your shoulders, down your spine, down your buttocks, the backs of your legs. And take one more breath. Breathe in, hold Open your eyes when you're ready. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Have a yawn, have a stretch. How's that? So can I just ask, hands up, who's had any form of hypnotherapy, any hypnosis? Thank you. So about half of you. I can tell you now that all of you have just been hypnotised. So you can go home tonight and say you've had hypnosis. And that's what hypnotherapy is all about. It's therapy using hypnosis. And we fall in and out of hypnosis all day long. So if you knew where you were coming tonight, then some of you coming backwards and forwards in your car, going to the same place, you fall into hypnosis because the root has dropped into your subconscious. So we've got two parts of the brain, the conscious brain and the subconscious. And 9 times out of 10, the subconscious and the conscious, and 9 times out of 10, everything we do on a daily basis is subconscious. So you're driving to and from a route, a lot of the time you're under hypnosis. Because you don't even know how you got here. Where did that last half hour go? But if a deer or a child ran out in front of you, you'd be straight back into your conscious mind and you would react very quickly. Or we're watching TV and suddenly the credits come up and you think, well, hang on a minute, I was watching that. No, you weren't. You're obviously zoned at that time. And we've all been there when we've sat in front of a friend and they're staring straight at you. And you're going, hello, you know, and they've gone zoned out at that time. So we do it all day long, dropping in and out of hypnosis. So what I thought I would start with is telling you about my backstory and where I came from and how I got into trauma therapy. I was in corporate world for many years. I was in the stiletto heels and the suits, driving company cars, dealing with all big corporate companies, IBM, ICL, Intel, Intergraph, and so on. I drank too much, I probably ate too much, well I don't think I ate actually, being stressed, but I drank too much and smoked and I worked really, really silly hours. And then I had an Indian head massage. I started having holistic therapy and the Indian head massage completely blew me away. And then I had that epiphany moment, like a lot of you that do have holistic therapy or you've given holistic therapy, suddenly you think things have got to change. So then I retrained at the age of 40 to become a holistic therapist. And my learning curve was like that because all my clients were traumatised. And so I wasn't getting any fluffy clients. I wasn't getting somebody that, oh, I just want to relax, or I drop the kids off and I just want to relax, or anything like that. I was getting traumatised clients. So I was doing body work. So I did lots and lots of training on different forms of body work, reflexology, lots of different forms of massage, Hopi ear candles and so on. And I did that for many years. But I still continued to get traumatised clients. And I thought, you know what, I know I'm not disrespecting anybody in what I'm saying, but because I am a holistic therapist, but smelling that rug just wasn't cutting it, really. It was helping people relax, but it wasn't getting to the root cause of their trauma. So then I decided I'll go down the esoteric route. So I did lots of different forms of healing, crystal ball, tarot readings. I did lots of mind, body, spirit fairs. I did lots of tarot parties. And I was, again, very successful at that and people were queuing out the door. But I thought this still isn't ticking the box. Because yes, all these things help people relax and become at one with themselves. But if they've got deep-seated trauma, it's not clearing it. So I then retrained again as a hypnotherapist, and I never looked back. I did my counselling many, many years ago, and that was brilliant for setting boundaries and for my own journey, if you like. But with hypnotherapy, it gets into the root cause, and I do analytical hypnotherapy, so it's looking back at trauma, looking back at where a trauma has come from. Now sometimes people say, I know where it's come from, I had a car crash on the motorway, and this is a genuine case. A 58-year-old lady came to me, had a shunt on the motorway. And she was 58, and she then said, I can't drive on the motorway anymore. And it wasn't a bad shunt. The traffic stopped, and a chap came up and bumped her. So under the hypnoanalysis, we went back to when she was 5 years old. And at 5, she was given a red pedal car for her birthday. And she was in this little pedal car, loving it, and her sister came up behind her and was jealous because she hadn't been given a pedal car. So what she did was kicked her. And as she kicked her, you can imagine this little 5-year-old got her legs trapped underneath and lots of tears and lots of trauma. I'm saying trauma because trauma comes in very, very different forms. So it traumatised her, and I asked her under hypnosis, what's the colour of the pedal car? She said red. What's the colour of the car that shunted you on the motorway? Red. So she came to me saying, I can't drive on the motorway anymore. And what happened was it took her back to when her brain, I'm saying, took her back, her subconscious took her back to when she was 5 years old, when she was first shunted. Can a 5-year-old drive on a motorway? No, of course they can't. So let's clear that trauma of that 5-year-old and then become the adult again at the age of 58. Can you drive on a motorway? Yes, I can. Off she went. So that's how trauma therapy works, is clearing the trauma. I'm going to talk to you about PTSD because PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. Complex PTSD or CPTSD is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and the difference between the two is post-traumatic stress disorder would normally be one incident, whereas if it's complex, excuse me, it's many layers, many different incidents. So for instance, if I had a soldier come to me and he's been to Bosnia and he's been to Northern Ireland and he's been to Afghanistan, he might have witnessed 3 different wars and he's witnessed 3 different situations. So that becomes complex. That's when it becomes layered. Or if you've got a lady who's been repeatedly sexually abused by her father over many years, and then what happens, she gets to 14 and runs away, and then she gets in with a boyfriend who starts abusing her, and then eventually 30 she gets married and that husband abuses her. Again, that starts becoming complex, so it's revealing the layers. People ask me if it's different, if the therapy is different. It's not different, but it can take longer to peel back those layers and get to the root cause. And what we do with the root cause is actually, I always say it's like, I use the beach ball analogy, because it's like pushing down a beach ball and just going, you know, it's okay, I'll push it down, and what happens, it pops up over there. So you go and push it down over there and it pops up over there. So under therapy, we lift it up and go, do we need this anymore? And analyse it. And then we can throw it away and go, no, we don't need it anymore. Sometimes people hold these wounds like a wound, an actual wound on their body. You know, if you imagine that you've got this wound and you know it's there and it's your secret, because it might be, nobody else knows about this wound. Nobody else knows that I was sexually abused when I was a child and my dad's a bastard, or whatever you want to say. So every now and then you might lift up that plaster and go, can't go there, no, I'm not going to have therapy, I'm fine. Or you might even lift up the plaster and go, I'm going to rip it off. I'll deal with it. Rip it off. And then go, oh no, I'll go and get another plaster and I'll stick it back on. It'll be fine. So when people come to me, we just rip that plaster off and we dig out the infection. And by digging out the infection and the wounds, you can heal. A lot of people, a lot of military people, because of their training, they believe that you'll never get rid of PTSD. You can learn to live with it, that you can clear it, it can be cleared. And what happens when PTSD, as I say, is life-threatening, and it can affect any one of us. Many, many years ago, in the First World War, Second World War, it was called shell shock. Then it was renamed to PTSD, and then it's, in the last few years, 10 years, it's really become quite familiar. I think it's only in about the last 7 years it's actually been recognised that anybody can suffer with PTSD, and it's not just the military. Which is great, because people do suffer with it, and unfortunately it's become a bit of a throwaway word as well. I'm sure as therapists you've heard people saying, oh, it's my OCD tendencies and stuff like that, and it's almost belittling those people that have got OCD and have got trouble coping. So I do get clients call me and say, oh, I've got PTSD. And the first thing I ask them is, have you been diagnosed? And I go through, because of my holistic background now, I go through a comprehensive questionnaire. So I'm asking how you're sleeping, how you're eating, any drugs you're taking, and so on. PTSD victims normally self-medicate, so they'll either be alcoholics or drug takers, or self-harmers, or they can be all three, overeaters. Self-harming is a form of coping. So by cutting yourself, and self-harmers will either cut themselves on their arms or their legs. It's places where you can't see. You very rarely will you get a self-harmer cut their face or their hands, because you can see that. And it would be recognised, and people say, well, what have you done? Whereas they can cut underneath clothing and it won't be seen. They cut their stomachs as well. And by cutting, the pain is so intense, the blood is there, the pain is there, and by it being there or wherever they cut, it's coming out of here. It's not there, it's blocking that pain in there. So it helps them forget. So that's what self-harming is all about. So the easiest way of me describing trauma is, if you've got, I had a soldier who was walking along in Afghanistan. His friend was walking along with him and asked for a light to a cigarette, and he lit a cigarette, and the chap carried on walking, and his mate stood on a bomb and went up. What we need to do as human beings is we need to understand things. We're just built that way, and we need to understand how something works. I mean, I've driven here tonight, I don't know how my car works. I put the key in and I'll come here and that's it. I don't need to know. But what I'm talking about is, if you're driving along and you're with your partner or passenger and you see a car crash, we've all done it, and we go, I think that white car hit that red car, and that's why he's over there. And your partner might say, well, I think that blue car come around the corner and hit that white car, and you carry on talking about it, and you're going miles up the road, still talking about who did what. And you might even be telling your friends later on, saying, well, there was this white car, and why are you even talking about it? Because we need to understand, how did that car end up on his roof in the ditch? Well, that car must have hit that car, and it's just the way you're built. So going back to the soldier, when he witnessed his mate blowing up, and there's nothing left of him, he's just asked me for a light, and there's nothing left. Then he will go through in his mind, where does this live? It doesn't live anywhere. Your brain is going, well, where does this live? And that's when it gets stuck in a part of the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala is your red flag, if you like. So with us all sitting here tonight, some of you have probably heard of the fight, flight or freeze. So if we're sitting here tonight and suddenly we go, oh my God, there's a fire in the corner there, look at that, and we all go, oh my God, you know. Some of us will sit there going, and freeze, okay? But others will leap up and fight and go, right, where's the fire extinguisher? And others will be in their car going home because they've flown. But you've also, I'm sorry about the video, but you've also got faint, and excuse my language, fuck. Okay? So some of you might pass out. Oh my God, there's a fire and I'm scared, I'm going to pass out. I don't expect any of you to do the last one, but if you do, then you won't be welcome at any more meetings. But, and that's how we respond to trauma. We don't always suffer from PTSD. So say for instance you're walking home from your yoga class down a dark alley and somebody pulls a knife to your throat. You manage to get away and you get home. And you get home to your safe, loving husband. This is right, I'm calling the police, right, I'm going out there, da, da, da. And your kids are going, it's okay mummy, you're all right, you know, you're safe. And then suddenly you're back in that loving environment and your husband's just got promoted and the kids are doing well at school. Oh my God, you know, that was just really awful. You might get away with it unscathed. Yeah? But if you go through the same scenario and you're walking down the road and somebody takes a knife to your throat and your husband's just left you and you've just been made redundant that day and you get home to your flat and somebody's broken into it and so on. Yeah, you can see those layers and then suddenly that final straw, but your life has been threatened. So going back to the soldier, his life was threatened because he witnessed his mate blowing up. But then you get a thing what's called survivor guilt. Why did he die and I didn't? Yeah. So going back to the amygdala holds on to that trauma because it doesn't know where it belongs. Yeah. So the amygdala, the red flag that says there's a fire in the corner, what are you going to do about it? Well, actually, seeing somebody blown up, the amygdala goes, I don't know what to do with that. Because it sends a signal to the hippocampus. The hippocampus is your superhighway which will process your thoughts, your actions, what you're doing on a daily basis. You're teaching, you're learning. We're teaching and learning all day long. But when something like that happens, the amygdala gets stuck. And that's why we get the flashbacks. That's why we get the panic attacks. Because actually, if only I knew how to get rid of this, I would. I need to take the kids to school, but I can't. Because the kids are, you know, it's a scary place. You know, that noise, hearing a funny noise, that reminds me of a tank or whatever, yeah? And then it suddenly spirals. And then they might get sent out again on tour, and another thing happens, and then it becomes complex. And the only way of shifting that is through hypnosis. With counselling doesn't work because you're talking to the conscious. When you're like I'm talking to you now, like you're talking to your friends. I'm not saying counselling doesn't work in the respect of, yeah, it helps in lots of different areas. But if you've got something like that that's so powerful, you need to be under hypnosis to clear it. Okay. And a lot, you know, some people do say, oh, well, I only live in the here and now. You know, I only want my client to come in and be in the here and now, and we step forward into the future. We don't rake over the past. Well, I don't rake over the past, but we do go back, and we do regress. But it's only a snapshot. That's all it is under hypnosis, is a small snapshot. So say for instance, if I've got somebody, and the reason I say about don't be in the here and now, is you tell that to a 19-year-old who was raped 2 years previously. You can't say, well, forget about that. Let's think about the here and now, what you're doing today. You need to revisit, to say what happened, how did it happen, why did it happen, and move forward. And then a lot of what I do is there's a lot of guilt and a shame attached to it, especially with sexual abuse. You know, why did I allow him to do that? Yeah. So under hypnosis, I would say, for instance, if I'm going back on somebody's age, say 9 years old, and I can see what people are doing. Obviously, you watch the body language, the tightening of the fists, clutching, and all that sort of experience. I know there's something there. What's happening? I'm in bed. Okay. And then what's happening? He's come in the room. Who's come in the room? My dad. Okay, let's go back to the beach, when you were on the beach and you felt lovely and relaxed. So that is all it is, it's a snapshot. Because I don't need to know any gory details and they don't need to revisit. But that's all their subconscious needs, is that recognition that actually my dad did abuse me. He did come in on that day when I was 9 years old. And then we talk about it after hypnosis, if the client wants to. So do you realise what happened there? Yeah, I did actually, but I didn't want to admit it to myself. And sometimes I'm the only person that people have spoken to about any particular thing, and I might be the only person that they ever speak to. So for instance, I had a lady who, at the age of 31, and the other thing is I can't make you say or do anything that you don't want to, because a lot of people think that under hypnosis it's 3, 2, 1 and you're under, and I'm going to make you run around like a chicken. That's all stage hypnosis. That's totally different. It's stage hypnosis, and I always say people are paid to be on stage, and they want to be acting like a fool. This is therapy using hypnosis. So I had a lady at the age of well, not at the age of 31. We went back to the age of 31, and I knew there was something there. Under hypnosis, she said no. Even under hypnosis, you can still say no. You can bring yourself out of hypnosis. You can just open your eyes, say I'm not doing this, and get up and walk out. If anybody ran in the room and shouted out fire, you would be able to get up and walk out. It's just like you've just done, where you closed your eyes. That's hypnosis, yeah? And she said, no, there's nothing there. But I knew there was. But I thought, that's her choice. The following week she came back and she said, you asked me about the age of 31. I said, yeah. She said, I haven't been honest with you. I said, okay. Do you want to be honest with me now? Yes. Okay. What happened then? She said, I had an abortion. I didn't tell my husband. And she said, the kids are grown up now. And she said, and I didn't want any more children. So she said, I took myself off to Bournemouth or wherever it was for the day. And I just did it. And nobody knows. I said, but I do now. How do you feel about that? So relieved I've told somebody. But she'll never tell anybody else. But she just told her therapist, because sometimes I have to remind people, I'm your therapist. Because I am a friendly, outgoing person, sometimes they think that I'm coming along for a chat with my friend. But actually I remind them, I'm your therapist. And then they go, yeah, you are. And with that, they realise it's not going to go any further, because you aren't talking to a friend down the pub for lunch. This is therapy. And she never told anybody else after that. And things really improved for her. And yeah, she's living a really happy life, which is great. But that just needed to be addressed, needed to be brought up. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to open up for any questions.
What do you do with survivor guilt?
Survivor guilt's normally around guilt. So it's looking at that guilt and recognising, forgiving yourself actually for that person dying, and because it is guilt. It's about they died and I didn't. Yeah, and knowing that it's okay that you can live and you can move on. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people come to me for fear of flying, and then suddenly you unravel and you think it's much more than fear of flying. They come with one thing and then it turns out to be a lot bigger. A lot bigger. And I had a lady who came for reflexology, and she talked to me for about 3 years in a shop that I used to go to, a local shop, and for 3 years, I'll take your card, I've got your card, I'll give you a ring. And 3 years it took, and then finally she come through the door and said, you can give me reflexology. Right, okay, fine. So I did reflexology. I had no idea what was troubling her. So I gave her reflexology, and then after that, she said, I need more help. Isn't that great, that Charlie Maxey, you know, what's the bravest thing that you've ever asked for? Help. Which is lovely. So she said, I need your help. Hers was one of the most difficult cases I'd ever had. And she witnessed her mum murdering her brother when she was little. And then turning around and saying, I did it for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was really, really tough. But she'd carried that for about 50 years. And that's huge, huge trauma. But again, at the end of it, she skipped off into the sunset, you know, feeling like, understanding it wasn't her fault. Because she had a huge guilt. Why did I let her do that? You were 9 years old. How could a 9-year-old pull off an adult? They couldn't. So, yeah.
So you don't clear it while they're under. You wait till the session's over and then you chat. Is that how you clear it?
It's cleared under hypnosis, but we can talk about it more after. So you can say, you know, how do you feel about what's come up? I knew my brother was horrible to me because he locked me in the coal shed and did this and that to me. So you're still, it's called waking hypnosis. So you actually, when you come out of deep hypnosis, when you come out, you're still in that lovely floaty state. And I can do some waking hypnosis as well. But it's making sense of it. Okay,
I'm so
right.
sorry.
No worries,
Thank you very,
no
very
worries.
much. Thank you everyone.
But
See
yeah,
you all
thank
in
you
March.
ever so much for coming.
See you in a couple of months' time then.
Safe
Yes,
travels.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'll get back in one piece now.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Any other questions?
Yes, I've got a client who has got spinal problems, she thinks, shoulder problems, so she's got this pain all over her body, she can't do this, she can't do that. But she's holding on to it, she needs to have this pain for reasons why she can't do other things.
Yeah.
So how would you deal with that?
What's she holding on to?
Yes.
You know, holding on to something, whether it's pain or anything like that, is controlled. Yeah. But it's what's called a secondary gain. So the secondary gain is if I say I've got a back problem, that means my husband's got to do the washing, unload the washing machine and unload the dishwasher. And if I say my hand hurts, then my husband's got to do the ironing, or somebody else has got to do the ironing, and my hand still really hurts. Yeah, it could be a secondary gain. A lot of kids do it, don't they?
A lot of people just like to hold on to their problems, don't they? Their pain.
It becomes them. It becomes part of them.
Yeah.
You know, some people you say, right, I've cleared the trauma, I've cleared this, I've cleared that. You've still got this arthritis pain that you're holding on to. Oh no, I'll hold on to that. Because it makes them who they are. I've got a chap that I've known for years personally, and he has got complex PTSD, and he goes to this therapy, that therapy, this therapy, that therapy. He's a therapy hopper. And I know I can clear it, but he won't come. Because he wants to go to this therapist, that therapy, and still say no, but he could fix me. Because he wants that. He owns that PTSD. And it gets him out of things. Yeah. But it defines who you are. And that pain defines who she is.
And she's got to want to sort it to then get to that part from the brain.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Difficult one,
I hurt my back before Christmas, and I was in Tai Chi and the chairs were stacked and the chair went bang down like that on my spine. So I know I've actually got an injury. And I'm questioning, a month on, am I holding on to this? Is this giving me an excuse that Wendy get the box out for me and help me in and put the banners up for me? You know? I don't think it is, but...
It'll take a while, muscle pain.
I know. Yeah, but you know, we as therapists, you know, hold on to it. You know, think about, am I holding on to this for a reason? It took me a long time to stop with my holistic therapy, and I'm sure it took you a long time to let go of your beauty stuff to actually go, I'm doing life coaching now. Yeah. It takes a while, and we like our comfort. And especially with people that have PTSD or trauma for a long, long time, if you take that away, then who am I? Who am I? Yeah.
Do you think confidence or lack of confidence is linked to past traumas and things?
Yeah. So what I do is, I always say I don't crack a hazelnut with a hammer. I know a lot of therapists do, and they go straight into the trauma and clear it quickly and and off you go. But do you go off? You go well-rounded. You know, I sometimes question that. I've built together what I call a clearance program over so many years. And so what clients do, they have an initial consultation. And through that, I go through a lifestyle questionnaire. And also they have hypnotherapy, relaxation, and then they're given a recording. And it's not a recorded session, but it's a relaxation recording for them to play at home. And then they can decide whether they want to do the program or not. Because I'm not forcing anybody to do it. So yes, if they buy into it, it's 9 sessions, a block booking up front. And then what I do with, I'm just trying to think, what I do with those 9 sessions is, first of all, it's relaxation, which is key. Because with PTSD or trauma victims, they are wound up. They don't know how to relax. They can't relax with everything that's gone on and the turmoil that's going on in their brain. They don't know how to relax at all. So the first 3 sessions, if you like, in effect, including the initial consultation, is relaxation. Then I tell them, we're going to do deeper work now. So I prepare them. So the next couple of sessions is the deeper work, which is the regression. I do inner child therapy, I do cord cutting, because if you've had abuse from a family member. They might still be around, they might still be your family member, but you're still tied to them with the cords, if you like, of family, and you want to cut those ties and let them go. Gestalt work, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. So it's chair work. So basically you're talking again into the subconscious, you're talking to you, you're talking to the person, and then you're talking to the victim. So you're having this, you can have it 3 ways or 2 ways or even 4 ways, but you're talking to each party. I do a lot of letter writing as well, which is really huge. It's very therapeutic. I've got a client at the moment, and I've been asking her for the last all weeks to do her letters, and she hasn't. And that's writing to the abuser. So write into them, but you're never going to send it, you know, but you're writing, in her case, as the little girl that was abused, to the adult self that she is now, and then the adult self writing to the little girl. So say, you're okay, you're here, you survived. And anybody that comes to me are survivors. They might not feel like it, but they've survived. And I'm so blessed that I've got the whole mind, body, spirit package, because a lot of people say, well, do you wish you'd done this work straight away? And I always say no, because I've got the whole mind, body, spirit package, that I've done all my training in different modalities. So if people want to talk about angels, then I'll talk about angels. If people want to talk about spirit, I'll talk about spirit. Or if I've got a CEO of a company who doesn't believe in any of that, I talk about business guidance or focus or anything, motivation. So the therapy will always fit the client. So initially what we do is we set up, before we do any work, your safe place. So for me it's the Bahamas with Brad Pitt walking towards me. That's my safe place. That's a good place, you know. And it depends on and I learnt very early on as well. I had a lovely picture of trees in my therapy room, because trees is my logo. It's been my logo ever since I started. My client was just really, really agitated. I kept looking, thinking, what's that? You know, what's upsetting you? She said, those trees. And it turned out that she had a car accident, and this was a big shunt. She was in a little sports car, and a transit bag came up behind her at 100 miles an hour and hit her, and she spun and went through a forest. And so the trees, I said, right, okay, took that picture down, put it away. So every time she came, it was out of the room. So then I got another picture of the beach, because the beach is my happy place. So I had those side by side, so you had a choice then. You could either go to the forest or go to the beach. But you know, it depends on what people like. Some people don't like beaches. I love the beach. Angela's with me there.
Oh yes.
Sand between your toes. Some people, oh my God, no way. I don't know what's in that sand, you know. So it's really fitting the client and finding out what relaxes them, and then using that to relax them. And then when we do the deeper work, if they suddenly get agitated, I say, right, go back to your beach. You're in your beach now. And I find out their pleasant place. I find out a happy event. What's a happy event? For traumatised clients, it's normally somewhere alone. Even if they're married, even if they've got children, you might think, well, it must be the birth of your first child. No, it's being alone somewhere on a desert island, something like that, where nobody can harm them. Yeah, that's where they feel happy, safe. The key thing is huge, is being safe, feeling safe. Yeah, feeling safe enough to disclose things, because again, sexual abuse is very, very disclosing, isn't it? What's she going to think of me? You know, I had a guy who was raped by his uncle. You know, what's she going to think of me? Does she think I'm gay now? Yeah. And you know, I've had a gay man whose father abused him, tried to beat the gay out of him. You know, it's so varied. And I can see a lot of you go, oh my God, you know, but I love my work. I just absolutely love it. I love my job. And it sounds a bit weird, but I love seeing people that come in, they say, am I broken? I'm broken, can you fix me? And nobody's broken. You may have a broken spirit, but nobody is broken. Yeah, they're just coping the best that they can, and have been, and dragging themselves to work and taking the kids to school. And then there reaches a point where the wife or somebody says, you can't do that drinking anymore, you've got to get help. Yeah. Or whatever, something inside that suddenly says, I can't cope anymore, I can't do this to myself anymore. Again, I had a 66-year-old man who came with a stutter. And this is actually not a trauma, well, I suppose it is a trauma. As I say, there's all different variations. And I think each and every one of us has had a trauma of some description, whether it's been a car accident or anything like that, then, you know, we've all had different experiences. And he came with a stutter, and he phoned me up on the Monday and he said, I've got to give my niece away on Friday. Can you help me? I've got to give a speech. Dad had died a couple of years beforehand. And bless his heart, I said to him, right, I'll get you in for 2 quick sessions. So he came on the Tuesday and the Thursday. And I said, I can get you in, do the speech, but to clear this, you've got to come back and we'll do more sessions. Right, okay then. Anyway, he phoned me Saturday morning, he was nearly in tears, and he said, I stood up, I gave that speech, he said, I couldn't believe it, and everybody clapped, and he said, it was amazing, and I didn't stumble once, and it was just brilliant, and the best man got up, and he was bubbling all over the place, and he said, you should have gone to Deborah. Anyway, he said, I do want to come back, and I do want to clear this. And so we did, and he went back to when he was 9 years old. And he did something naughty at school. And to this day, I don't know what he did at school. But again, as a therapist, I don't need to know. If people don't want to tell me, I don't have to know. It's just the person needs to recognise that that was a problem there. So he did something naughty at school, and he got caught. So the headmaster marched him through 300 students and stood him on stage. Now tell him what you did. And from that point on he stuttered. So we cleared him. And he said, I can't believe I'm 66. He said, I can't believe I've waited all these years. I said, well, go on with your life now. You've got loads of life left. You know, it's done. It's cleared. So there's lots of different things that can be. I've had 11-year-olds. I don't see children anymore now, but a lot of 11-year-olds going up to the new school. It's a trauma. It's a big trauma for them. You know, and they even sit there and go, I'm traumatised, I can't go, you know. And I never disrespect that, because for them it is. It's massive. And some people say to me, I don't need to come to you because I haven't got any trauma. Or they might say, yes, I've got PTSD. Has it been diagnosed? No. Well, have you had your life threatened? No. Because PTSD isn't about being bullied at work. It isn't about, you know, I had a bad divorce. It's about your life being threatened. Yeah. And sexual abuse is, yeah, it is your life being threatened, because it depends on the abuse, doesn't it? you know, thinking about that horrible policeman this week that we've heard about. Who would think that somebody in authority would do that, but also being locked in a cupboard, a cage, or whatever he was doing to his victims? Is he going to kill me? Is he going to come in and kill me? And that's when it becomes really traumatic. And I hope those girls get the therapy they need. Yeah.
It must be very difficult for you at the end of the day to clear your mind of all those problems.
How
I
do you
mean, when you talk about the sexual abuse, I just think, well, that must be difficult.
Yeah.
How do you clear your mind?
Everybody asks me that, and I think when I did, because I did my counselling very early on, and I had a brilliant counselling course who just talked about clearing the room. I shut the door and it's gone. You know, now I do it on Zoom. I just close the computer and it's gone. You know, end the call and it's gone. And the way of me coping, and I just think, you know, you're only sent what you can cope with. And as I say, my learning curve was like that when I first started, and it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with all these people? But then I thought, well, I must be okay, because I can deal with it. I'll deal with it. I'll learn how to deal with it, and retrain and do whatever I need to do. But I do regular supervision, and I do regular breaks. I've got a great group of friends that I go out and have coffees with and lunches with. And I've just got this ability to actually say it's not my stuff. Yeah. You think of all the, say for instance, the ambulance workers and, you know, doctors and firefighters, and they can't go, oh my God, I've got another fire to go to tonight. You know, you get used to it. You know, you get used to it. I think there's only two clients in all the years that have really, really affected me. Actually, three. The first one was a lady who had breast cancer, and she was the same age as me, and she came to me for Reiki and said that she wanted my help to cope with it. And when she left, I cried, because I thought she was the same age as me, and she's got little ones, and you know, it was really heart-wrenching. But she went on, and you know, she came back with a new hairdo, and I opened the door to her and I said, oh, you've had your hair cut. And she said, oh my God, it's a wig. And I never even realised, you know, and she said, that's fantastic because you didn't know. And I said, no, I didn't, it looks great. You know. And so on, and we worked really well together. The other one was a chap who turned up with, there's very often people that have had childhood sexual abuse. They don't grow up, so they wear like Mickey Mouse socks and have a little girly handbag, and they're still in that child mode. And this chap turned up, he was 40 years old, and really, really good looking guy, lovely personality, but he was dressed like a little boy with, you know, when kids have got jumpers on that are too short for them, they've grown out of them. And, oh, okay. Anyway, so week in, week out, and he was abused by his mum, who used to beat him every night. And he learned, as a 3-year-old, to stand with his hands behind his back and put his head up while she rained punches on his face and punched him. And I cried. I couldn't believe that anybody could do that to a little 3-year-old. And he said it's because I was naughty. I said, well, what can a 3-year-old possibly do that is that naughty? Anyway, we did a lot of work together under hypnosis and trauma work. And as he progressed, because I see a very quick progression, because it's only 9 weeks, and I see people weekly, over 9 weeks, they change very, very quickly. Suddenly the hair's done, the makeup's going on. Not on the guys, of course. Unless they're gay, of course. They want to. But yeah, the makeup goes on, and suddenly they bought a new top, you know, and a bit of colour comes in. But with him, he grew up. He had man's men's clothing on. And I opened the door to him one day, and there he is in a smart suit with a shirt, and I thought, now you're an adult. Now you've stepped into being an adult and not the 5-year-old, 3-year-old, whatever it was, victim. Because it's being stuck in that, can't grow up. So going back to your question, how do I look after myself? Well, it's New Year, I've got a new diary. The first thing that goes in is my holidays. I love shows, I love theatre, I love socialising, so that all goes in. I moved to Lyon-Solent, so I'm near the sea, so I can go for lovely walks and I can go and sit on a bench on the seafront, which is great. And then the next thing that goes in is my days off. How many days do I want to work in the week? So I used to have Wednesday off. Now I have Friday off. So I have a long weekend. Yeah. But if I've got less clients, sometimes I have a Wednesday and a Friday. Yeah, so it depends on what's going on. And then my clients go in. And it's in that priority. I mean, gone are the days. And I'm sure you guys can, respond to this. It's like, oh God, fit another client. Oh yeah, can you see me? Yeah, I'll fit another client in. And I'll fit 9 o'clock. You think, I haven't had my tea yet. I don't do that anymore. I'm too old. I'm too old. Just can't be bothered. But I fit my clients in a working day. And it's surprising when you say to your clients, no, I don't do evenings. And they say, oh wow, I've got a day off next week. And they come. So my last appointment's 6 o'clock. And I don't waver from that. It's 6 o'clock, so they can leave work early. And they do have homework to do, so in that 9 weeks they have homework to do every week. And if they don't do their homework, they're told off. So, and sometimes people mess around. They turn up, they paid their money. My problem, there you go, it's yours now, you get on with it. I give it back, it's your problem, you deal with it. Because I'm the facilitator, and we all are, aren't we? We're the facilitators, like Lisa. Go home, do some exercises, go back the next week. Have you done your exercises? No. Well, why are you wasting your money? And that's what I say, don't waste my time and your money. Are you going to work with me? Are you going to do the work? The minute you say that, they go, oh, yeah, okay then. Okay, let's crack on then. Yeah? Or do you want to finish now and carry on with your trauma? You might as well go. Yeah.
So how long is each session?
An hour. So the initial session is about an hour and a half. Sometimes it can be an hour and 45 minutes. Sometimes it can be even longer. I never charge any more for that, because the way I look at it is people are talking about something for the first time, and I'll give them as much space as they need to. Yeah. And
so how long is it? How much is it for the 9 sessions?
So on the initial consultation is 135, and then it's 935 for the 9 sessions.
Do you find 9 is usually enough?
Yes, and people are really surprised when I say 9,
Yeah.
especially if they've been to counselling for years. Sometimes people say they've been in counselling for 5 years and so on, and then I say 9, and they think, well, how can you possibly clear that? I mean, I had a guy in the Navy who'd been in 3 wars, so he had complex PTSD, and he said, I don't think you'll clear this in 9 weeks, And sometimes you do, because I do sort of like a countdown. So what I do is I say, right, you've got 2 more sessions. Where are you? How do you feel? Do you feel ready? Ready to quit? Ready to go on your own now? No, I don't. And if they don't, then I'll add on 3 more at the end. That's very rarely I do that. But sometimes it depends. We all learn very differently. So you might get somebody who the trauma's cleared very, very quickly. It goes very smoothly. So we might say after 6 sessions, okay, what do you want the next 3 to be? Well, I've got a bit of weight actually, and a bit of weight reduction. Yeah, cool, we'll do that then. Or I'm going for this new job and I've got to speak, public speaking, we'll add that in. So again, it's tailored to the client. But again, we might get to 9 and go, okay, you've got your penultimate, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Or they find, oh, it's actually a bit scary. Do you want 3 more? Okay. Yeah, I have 3 more. And then after those 3, they are ready. You know, because all we're doing is confidence building at the end. So as I say, we do the relaxation at the beginning, the trauma work in the middle, and then the confidence building at the end. And it may be curveballs get thrown in, yeah, because we might get to, we've all heard, I'm sure, of the door handle. Have you heard of the door handle comment? You know, the door handle comment is, you know, I've got a fear of flying, and yeah, my leg hurts a bit as well, you know, and I've had an operation on my knee, you know, a few years ago, and All right, okay, and you go through all that, and you go through the whole session, and then as they're leaving on the door handle, they say, oh, by the way, I've got a brain tumour. Right, okay. So you can get to the 9 sessions, and because they realise that actually I haven't been truthful all the way through it, and I haven't told her I had the abortion at 31. Now I'm going to tell her. And then we go, right, okay, we need to do a few more sessions for that, if we need to. Yeah.
And how do people know to come to you in the first place? If you go on to other things like overcoming, speaking and things like that, how do they know to come in the first place? Or is it anything they deem a trauma and then you work with them?
Well, yeah, sometimes people don't recognise they've got trauma.
Like, if you're thinking, oh, is that me? I don't know if I'm that bad. How do they know?
Yeah.
Or do they just come and, if it's something they want to work with, you'll work with them?
Yeah, basically. So some people definitely know they've got PTSD.
Yeah.
So
when you're asking that question, have you been diagnosed, that's just so that you have more information.
Absolutely.
Not because you're going to sign them off or sign them on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
absolutely.
That's fascinating.
So, but yeah, sometimes, I mean, I had a lady who came for quit smoking. She'd been diagnosed with COPD, and she wanted to quit smoking, had a fear of flying. But then when I did the consultation, there was loads of stuff that we needed to clear.
Yeah.
So I said, right, okay, you're flying on Saturday. Okay, so that's the first thing that we've got to do, the fear of flying. Forget about the smoking, go on holiday, come back, then we do the quit smoking.
But once they're within the programme, you can work with what they...
And then we do the extra work.
Has anybody got any questions? Any more questions that you'd like to ask?
I've got an interesting one, I think.
Okay.
So my aunt used to be a midwife and a nurse, and she used to tell me the story about this guy who, I think he ended up having been in a psychiatric ward, and they had this guy who used to debrief people with PTSD, and they worked out that this guy had basically back in World War II, he'd experienced some major trauma, and it hadn't been dealt with at the time. Years later, he something happened, and he got put into the psychiatric ward. But they were doing some like progressive work, and then this guy came in and basically took him back, worked out what he'd experienced, and debriefed him, and got him back onto onto level feet. And then I met another guy recently, and his grandfather has suddenly got dementia, and he noticed that when his son had died, like a few months previously, he'd been normal, and then had this trauma, and then suddenly had this dementia. And I've got a few people around me who are starting to show signs of dementia, and I know that they have got various things in their past, and also like my grandfather, their father had major PTSD in shell shock in the war, and I kind of feel like we're in this time bomb of people who ancestrally have got stuff being handed down, their own stuff that they haven't had dealt with, and then they're having something happen, and then they're getting diagnosed as having dementia. And I wondered if you've found anything like that in your treatments, or even if you believe that that is a possibility, because I kind of want to start sending people to someone like you to see whether we can unpick what's happened in both ancestrally and in that person's life to break this momentum of potentially it spiralling down the dementia route. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I haven't heard about it, but it's certainly an avenue I can look into. I do get not a lot, but I have to be careful with what I do, because sometimes people have got psychosis. And I've got a BNF, I don't know if you're familiar with the BNF, it's the book that the doctor gets out, which has got the, I can't remember what it's called, it's British something or other, of drugs. So, you know, when you go to the doctors, that's it. And I've got one of those. And so if somebody says to me, I'm taking these drugs, I always take down all their drugs, or if they're taking loads, then send me a photocopy of your prescription. And then I can check them all out. And if any are psychotic, then I can't see them. And sometimes if they are psychotic, they will be under a psychiatrist. But again, sometimes what you're saying is, you know, people get pigeonholed, don't they? You know, and especially years ago, don't be stupid, weren't abused, brush it under the carpet, you know. And I had a girl last year who was battling with her mum. And I think the awful thing is when the double betrayal, the father's abused, and the child says, he's abused me, and the mother says, shut up. No, you weren't. It's a double betrayal of the people that should have been nurturing them and looking